Ready.
Okay. All right. And
You
I'm
just flipped
sideways.
sideways?
Am I good now?
You're good. You're
Okay.
back in landscape.
All right. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Captain's Quarters, the unofficial Star Trek rewatch podcast, where we are rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise, starting at the beginning of the official chronology and working our way through. We've already watched all of Star Trek Enterprise. Um, what else did we do? We did a couple episodes of Disco.
Disco, one
Yeah.
episode of the original series, The Pilot, The Cage.
Yeah, and now we're moving on to Strange New Worlds, and we've actually finished season one of Strange New Worlds, and we're just getting into Strange New Worlds season two. Today we're talking about Strange New Worlds season two, episode two, called Ad Astra per Aspera, which is Latin, I believe, for
It
to
is.
the stars something something
Through hardships.
through hardships.
Yeah.
My name is Gabe. I'm with my co-captain Jason. Make it so, Jason.
Hey, buddy. It's good to be back in the captain's quarters as always. How are you doing?
It's great to be back. I'm doing great. My favorite place to be.
Favorite place to be on the ship? Absolutely. What are you drinking tonight? Anything? I know it's a later
Just,
start.
just Whole Foods,
Just Whole Foods.
pure sparkling water.
They don't sponsor us, but they could.
That would be amazing if Jeff Bezos
Yeah.
listened and
Whole paycheck? Do we want whole paycheck? Yeah, again.
yeah, well, we're open to any sponsorships that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
willing to help out on
The little
our little.
podcast that could, the little
Yeah,
podcast that could. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. Yeah. All right, let's do the brief synopsis that I always steal from fandom.com because they do such a wonderful job. Here we go. Commander Una faces court martial along with possible imprisonment and dishonorable dismissal from Starfleet. And her defense is in the hands of a lawyer who's also a childhood friend with whom she had a terrible falling out. Jason, are you a fan of like courtroom dramas? Like the genre itself of
Um, I'm not gonna say I'm not. Uh, because one of my favorite movies is A Few Good Men, and that is very much a uniform dress code in the Navy. You know,
yeah,
it's
you can't handle the truth.
yeah, you can't handle the truth. It's but other than that, I'm I'm like tepid about
Sure.
it. What about
Yeah,
you?
like I think I do, but I don't know that there was ever one that I was deeply invested in.
Yeah.
I feel like I used to watch a bit of SVU, and a lot of those episodes would end in the courtroom. I always enjoyed that, but I can't say that it's like a genre that I'm well versed in.
Yeah. Like LA Law, oh my God, LA Law, holy, like that goes back. Law and
Yeah,
Order, yeah, I have a lot of family members who do, and there are and have been recommended them on a couple episodes that they thought would be interesting, but really, I'm not a huge, yeah, not a huge fan. Not to say
sure.
there's anything bad about them, obviously, I'm just not into them as
Right.
much.
Is Matlock of
Oh yeah,
this
that's a
ilk?
great. Yeah, yeah. The old version and the new version with Kathy Bates, and then the old one with
Hmm.
Sheriff Andy Taylor.
Yeah.
Andy Griffith.
I forgot Kathy Bates did it.
Yeah, yeah. I think
That's
it's still
funny.
on. I think it's still going.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it's still going. I think.
Oh, okay. Well, nonetheless, this was enjoyable. Um, Obviously, this episode was like inspired by those shows and movies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, but it's also, kind of the natural setting on how to handle her deception, if you will.
sure. Yeah,
A court martial.
sure. Yeah. A Few Good Men. That was a good pull. The John Grisham sort of
Yeah,
genre.
but actually, um, A Few Good Men was written by, uh-oh, I'm going to get.
Because Grisham did The
How
Firm.
dare you not know his name because you're a West Wing fan, Lim, or Newsworm?
The writer of West Wing.
Yeah.
Oh, starts with an A, right?
Yeah, thank you. Aaron Sorkin.
Aaron Sorkin. Yeah.
It A Few Good Men is an Aaron Sorkin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so Grisham is what? The Firm.
The
Eh,
Firm. Oh
that's the
gosh.
big one, right?
Pelican Brief?
Yeah, Pelican Brief. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the ones that have been made into movies, I enjoyed all those. I don't remember them
Okay.
all,
Yep.
obviously, but okay.
Okay. Yep.
Anyway, last episode, Pike hinted that he's going to go find someone. We didn't know who.
Yeah.
Turns out he was going to find Nira Katul,
Yeah.
who is the childhood friend from the synopsis. She's also an Illyrian, same as Una. So we find out that Una grew up on a Federation colony where they weren't friendly with the Illyrians, but I guess they allowed them to live in this colony. Sounds pretty, I don't know, pretty bleak. And at first, I think it was a little bit more open, but there were incidents and prejudice baked in because of the eugenics war.
So
And yeah,
actually, it's an Illyrian planet, and and this is where some of the disagreements between Una and Nera begin, is that half of the population will discontinue their genetic enhancements, the other half will continue. And Una's family continued it, and there was prejudice, rioting, um, um, vitriol, hatred, verbal stuff. The typical othering of people when you
sure,
and the one was that they were called augments, as a used as a
sure.
derogatory term.
Yeah, I want to get back to that point.
Yep.
So, um, Una's family, even though in secret they were still augmenting themselves, they decided to be some of the good ones, as she would say.
The non-augments, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but pretending to be the non-augments, the ones that are more palatable to the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
And, Nira and the rest of them were not pretending to be and maintained their cultural heritage, whatever you want to call it. And so created a rift between them. And so, eventually Una made her way to Starfleet. And, even though they're childhood friends, they didn't talk. A lot of resentment there. And so now Una got caught lying about being an augment or a Illyrian. And now she's being court-martialed. threatened with imprisonment. Uh, Captain Pike's girlfriend is the prosecutor, as well as a Vulcan. Um, and there's like a sort of a three-part judge panel that is listening to the case. And like we've alluded to, it's a courtroom drama. There are witnesses called to the stand. At one point, the admiral is brought to the stand, and they're talking about Una's character, what an outstanding member of Starfleet she is. But you know, Nira Nira is has an agenda, which is even though Una, she's really kind of using this as a platform to attack this institutional sort of segregation and prejudice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at first it comes across as she's using Una, but basically what happens is that she ends up through revealing that people like Pike knew that she was an Illyrian. It turns out that there is actually a law that says for someone um, somebody who is basically like a refugee or someone who's like sort of fleeing a bad situation, there's like three criteria that if they reveal their status and they tell it to an officer, then if that officer agrees, then I guess the Federation like leadership can then approve it as well. And so Pike has been hiding the fact that he knew, but it turns out that that was her salvation because she told him, he agreed, he used his discretion, and that set the stage for um, the Federation to assess the case and allow her in. And that's exactly what happens. And there's a lot of themes here of obviously segregation and prejudice. And I think the big one is like, so obviously the eugenics war was a terrible thing. Millions of people died. And it was this life altering thing that happened to the Federation. And the Federation, as we know it now, was born from it, but the price was, immeasurable. But um, the disdain that they have then for these augments lasts hundreds of years later, and
Yeah.
um, it's very on the nose as far as like this group did this bad thing. Now, does that mean every member of that group forever is always bad? Because like that's kind of like how humans act, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and that's exactly what's happening here. And so there's that. There's also like survivor's guilt with Una because her family, even though they were covertly still augmenting themselves, they were they abandoned their culture and their heritage um in order to integrate, in order to fit in. And there's guilt there. And that is a sad thing. I think you and I probably empathize with that a bit as, just like um, there's a thing of like generations after the first generations who immigrate to the US, and the pressure to integrate and to um what's the word I'm thinking of? It's not necessarily
Assimilate.
assimilate. Thank you.
Yeah.
It is a huge burden and task because there is a norm like for in the US there is a norm,
Yep.
and if you don't assimilate into it, it creates barriers that are essentially insurmountable. But in the process of doing so, you do you lose things in that process. I feel it. I'm sure you felt it. Um, I don't want to speak for you, but that's been my experience is and that's not to say I'm like a first generation or whatever. I'm like
Hmm.
fifth generation. But
Yeah.
I grew up in an area where um it didn't need to happen very fast, I guess is my point, but it
Yeah.
needed to happen.
Sure. Sure.
Um
Sure. 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 Sure.
so like for instance, I don't speak Spanish, and I am the first like generation in my family who does not speak Spanish. I mean, I speak enough to get by,
Yeah.
but like the four generations before me all were all bilingual.
Yeah.
So, um, stuff like that. And
Absolutely.
it
100%.
and it definitely there's emotions around that for sure.
Yeah. 100%. And as the judge advocate says, not in just this case, the one that we're talking about with Una Chin Riley, but really with everything. It's nuanced and it's sophisticated and it's hard and not always easy. And it's something that, as she put it, the Federation has to, and Starfleet has to find a way to figure it out and reconcile. And I think that was a really important message and something that you were alluding to, that we have to find a way to figure it out and navigate it through and, you know, be who we are and be comfortable with who we are.
Right. Yeah. And I think she said it perfectly. I think it was in 3 episodes ago, and she was like, "When will it be enough to just be me
Yeah.
and not have to present as one of the good ones?" And so, um, that's kind of coming to a head here. And so they do, though. They allow her in, and it works. So Nira succeeds. Una is absolved. Um, and you know, she gets to rejoin Starfleet, presumably.
Yep.
A Hollywood ending for sure.
Hollywood ending for sure.
But yeah, I mean that was I don't know, that was kind of it, I think, for me. But I'll give you the floor now.
Yeah, so couple of things. Um so it was really interesting, and I don't know because I'm not entirely certain if they addressed it, but it was interesting. It's interesting that from Pike and Una's perspective, they got a friend of hers to be her legal counsel and her lawyer. From another perspective, though, you could argue that they probably got the best lawyer, an Illyrian herself, that had anti-Federation views. And who
Yeah.
better to defend another Illyrian from a PR outsider's perspective than someone who is who has no love for the Federation. And, that to me is a brilliant tactic. I don't know if that's something that they worked out and thought of or whatever, but that was a great tactic to write in. I'm sure they did. Um, the other point, and I hope it doesn't get lost, is that I think some of the complexity that adds to this is that in the history, is that Una watched Nira's cousin Ivan Catul get arrested and his family arrested. So that absolutely has to be a part of why Una and Nira haven't spoken in years and that their friendship is fractured. And yet there were hints of like in the end, and this may just be me reading too much into it, but there was still a lot of closeness to it, and I'm curious if they were more than just friends. Um, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Um, and then I love the way that Nira paints the entire story of Una's background to Starfleet Code 8514, the seek for asylum, right? And how she
Sure.
put Pike on the stand. I'm sorry, how she put Admiral April on the stand and seemingly attacked him, right?
Right.
For, you know, violating the Prime Directive on multiple occasions. And yet, really, what she was really doing was painting that picture of, look, yes, there are rules and there are laws, but Starfleet, over and over and over again, in its most human capacity, yes, they do good things. They strive to do good things. And I
Yeah.
thought that was done really brilliantly at the end, where she asked Una to like tell her the story, and it's eyewitness Starfleet hope, officers rescue people all the time as a kid, and yada yada, and all that stuff, and then for Pike to grant her the asylum in the end. I thought that was beautifully done. And then and then the other one is when they were on that when Nira and La'an were on the search of who turned her in. I was like, no one turned her in. She did it to her. She did this herself. She turned in her own self. I'm like, she
Yeah.
was like, like you could in the build up of the episodes, she's what was it? Ghosts of Illyria? Not the Ghosts of Illyria. Yeah, Ghosts of Illyria. Was that an episode that we saw?
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
title where they were at the Phantom Planet?
Yeah, that was it. Yep.
Where she started to say, "Hey, this is who I am, and I'm gonna live my truth," and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, it has to be Una
Sure.
that turned that in. And then the last one.
Hmm.
This is why I was annoyed at Pike for making sweet, sweet love afternoon loving with the princess of that one planet or the
Yeah.
of the whatever she was of that one planet. I'm like, you're in a isn't your girlfriend the captain of a different ship?
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
dude, come on, man, come on. Ah, don't be so Kirk.
Don't be so Kirk. Yeah, um, back to what you're saying about well, first of all, who was more than friends? Mira and Una?
I think Nira and Una were more than friends. The way they held
Okay.
hands,
Okay.
that felt to me, I was like, oh, that was kind of girlfriend coded.
Okay.
I could be reading way too much into it, but the way that the closeness, I was like, that's really, I mean, it's cool. I mean, maybe I'm just, again, wanting something. What is it? The mind sees what it wants to see.
Sure.
But to me, they held hands a little bit more intimately and things like that. And I think to me, they were girlfriends at the time. There were several moments of like girlfriend code.
Okay. Yeah, I totally missed that, but now I get it. I agree. Yeah. Perhaps. because we're not aware of any other love interest of Una. She hasn't
No,
expressed
we don't. Yeah, no.
any love for anyone else. Um, and then what you're saying about the flexibility of the laws, I found that very satisfying because me being relatively new to this, particularly when we were watching Enterprise, they very frequently bend the rules or flat
Yeah,
out break them, and
yeah,
then
for sure.
and even stuff that's not necessarily codified, like Vulcans never lie, but then they do lie. Um, I just thought that that was really satisfying to have like authority figures confronting that, saying we have laws, but they're flexible, and it isn't like the end of the world when it does happen, because that is the feeling you get when to Paul telling Archer, like, you cannot contact them because they have, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
those implications when when the senior leadership's not in the room. You get the feeling that the stakes are like dire, like he's going to be like thrown in prison for 20 years if he does this. But I just found that very satisfying to have um, you know, the Federation in the room and not freak out at the admission that those things have been bent.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
and to that end, Pike was right. Sometimes there are unjust laws.
yeah,
Absolutely. And because they're unjust, how can you have justice?
right, right, yeah,
There are absolutely laws that don't make sense.
right, yeah, totally. And um, and then what you're saying about her turning herself in, yeah, I think I think that's a component of that, just that guilt, but then also just the hurdle that we were talking about,
For
the
sure.
hurdle to conform and assimilate, to keep it up, to sustain it. Well, I don't know, again, don't want to put words in your mouth, but um there's a lot of that comes like from familial pressure, like
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
like like my dad was like always um in like labor, I guess you'd call it, construction,
Yeah.
um, package handling, it was like UPS, stuff like that. And the message growing up is always like, I don't want this life for you. I want a better life.
Yeah.
To the point where they kind of like take away so many things that forces you into that, even if we've talked about this before, but just like it's hard. Like motility is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're and just like constantly, having your foot on the pedal full throttle. That's what it takes
Yeah.
to actually make something like that happen. And it is exhausting. And I looked at her making that admission as like in that vein of like keeping this up is harder than just being myself, dealing
Yep.
with the consequences, and just being true to herself. And so yeah, I just sympathized with that, if that made sense.
That's exactly what it is. Holding a veil or a facade
Yeah,
every day. Yeah, yeah, and not being able to be who you are. Absolutely. It's the hardest thing. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So
And I was like, that is a beautiful way of and that is the writers knowing. Someone in the writers' room knew.
sure. Yeah, definitely.
to express that.
Right. Yeah, they nailed it for sure.
Yeah. And again, it's a beautiful othering episode. The civil
Right.
rights,
Hmm.
you know, red versus green, black and white, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Um, and it's timely and yeah, I thought it was beautifully done. Legally, I don't know. You're gonna have to ask like a lawyer and an actual legal like expert to like dive in and like talk about the legalities of the code, even though it's a even though it's a military tribunal kind of dealio, and there are laws and things like that within that. Um, I thought they, I thought they weaved the story beautifully, and it was really well done.
Agreed. Totally agreed. I do wonder what the broader implications would be then for augments and you know, Starfleet and the Federation's attitudes
Yeah,
towards the others going forward. But yeah, good
we did.
episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode. It was a really good episode, and it's interesting. I love it that we keep dealing with it, and that we keep revisiting it in this franchise. The augments, genetic enhancements, the othering, alien othering, stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And Starfleet's imperfect view of it sometimes.
yeah. It'll be
They've
a
cr-
it'll
they've
be a good. I was just gonna say it'll be an interesting thing to watch as we continue on
yeah.
through the franchise.
Yep.
Cool. Well, was there anything else with this episode?
Um no, I think that's it. I think we covered it, which is cool.
Yeah,
Good
agreed.
episode. What would you give it?
Oh, um, huh. Honestly, I hadn't considered it. There's
Oh,
nothing wrong with the episode. It is, because it is like genre breaking, if that's the right phrase. Um, it's hard to assess it because it feels like such a standalone, like spin-off episode or something.
mm.
Like how do you compare it as a Star Trek episode when it was, this courtroom drama,
Yeah.
but again, it hit on all these themes, multiple of them, and like you said, I think they totally nailed it. And so, yeah, man, I don't know, I'd probably give it like a man, low 90s,
Okay.
90 93 maybe,
Okay. Okay.
90
Nice.
92.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
This to me was a captain's episode. This gets 4 pips from me. Um, Not to boldly go and explore strange new worlds,
Hmm.
but to boldly go and explore a person, Starfleet itself, and the Illyrian narrative.
Sure.
So very much an armchair kind of, armchair psychologist kind of episode. Very, you know, Deep Space Nine kind of episode where you talk about feelings and emotions and you do that kind of exploring, which I love. So this gets a captain's episode. This is a Pip episode. I mean, you have it all. You have the mutants versus the humans. I love
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
you know, it's the othering. Especially in this time where you feel that we shouldn't other people
Yeah.
and and there are forces that do other people and it's wrong. And again, this is a civil rights episode. I love these kinds of things. Absolutely.
The Deep Space Nine thing, is that because they're on a base?
Yeah, they're on a space station, so they don't do as
Okay.
much exploration. I mean,
Yeah.
they do, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's they're
Makes sense.
rotating on a space station and you deal with a lot of character. Yeah, it's fun. I love that.
Okay.
You know me, I'm a very much I think story is driven from character. So
Sure.
I love character episodes and character arcs and stuff like that. So, yep.
Very cool. And I know you do, buddy.
Yeah, no, I know. I know you do, but to our listeners who may not.
Well, I mean, I do too, but I like maybe like balance the scale
Sure.
because like I think I'm into the mythology and the,
Yeah.
you know,
Star
the
Wars,
lore. Yeah. Yeah,
Star
yeah.
Wars,
Yeah.
Zelda,
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, Game of
Yes.
Thrones.
Speaking of, so yeah, so the new Nintendo Switch, the
Yes.
Switch 2 came out, and that's been taking
Yeah,
over my
if
life.
unless you're living under a rock,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of know that. Even me.
Yeah. But it's an exciting time to be a Nintendo fan and a Zelda theorist and all that. So
Which game did you get, or games did you get with, or does it come
so here's the deal.
does it come with cartridges still?
It can if you want
Oh,
to.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
usually download it from the Nintendo
yeah. Yeah. So
web thingy.
there's kind of like three modes. You can get the cartridge, you can download it, or you can subscribe and there's like this library of old games that you can play.
Oh, cool.
So, and then they've done this thing where you can play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which by the way look absolutely beautiful on the Switch too. Like they were always really good looking games, but the just the frame rates and the I've never been good at like um technical specs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's something that I never really appreciated, but whatever they did, they feel like new
Yeah,
games.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, I guess technically they are new games, but like like you're playing a game you know everything about, and it
yeah,
feels like a brand new experience just because
yeah.
it looks so beautiful. Um, so
So,
there's that. They updated it, upgraded
okay,
it. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So Steve Jobs once put it beautifully. People don't need to know what 12 megabytes or gigabytes is.
yeah,
All they really need to know is that you get 1,200 songs and 50 movies. That's what it
yeah,
gives.
right.
So yeah, so if it's an improved version
Yeah.
of a game or games, then yeah,
Hmm.
totally.
Yeah. So I've been going nuts with that. And you know, there's a group that I hang out with online all the time, and we've been like on a buzz of that because
When'd you get it, by the by?
so Best Buy did a thing because it released on Thursday, but they did a thing the night before,
Today?
a week
Or
ago.
a week
Yeah.
ago.
So they did a thing where you could go wait in line at 9 p.m. and pick it up the night before. So like
Oh, so they
so
did like an East Coast midnight release.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So so I got mine and by 11 o'clock I was playing and I think I was up till 2:30 or 3
Oh, good.
playing,
Having to
um,
work the next day.
having to work the next day.
Oh, good Lord.
But I was on such a dopamine high or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, I was just on cloud nine. It didn't phase me at all.
Okay.
I was just buzzed,
What do you
literally
got on
buzzed.
it? So you have, I assume, Breath of the Wild and
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Okay.
Yeah, and then like a big one that we've always wanted that was never on the Switch is the Wind Waker. So that you can play that now. So my daughter and I started playing that a couple nights ago. But so here's the thing is they released a mobile app for your phone and it's like a companion to the game. And it does a lot of stuff, but the main thing is it has a map on the phone and you can like spoil because Breath of the Wild is all about roaming around the map, finding stuff. You can like tell it, hey, show me where all the shrines are or where all the Korok seeds are, um, or treasure chests, enemies, everything. You can
Is
say,
that kind of
where is
like a
it?
cheat?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think for them, it's like, okay, the game's been out for 8 years. Like if
Right,
you're,
right. Sure, 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 sure,
yeah, who
sure.
cares?
Right.
But it's not just that. So they added this thing called Zelda Notes. And so at different waypoints around the map, they added hundreds of Zelda notes. And so if you find the spot, all of a sudden your phone chimes and then Zelda starts talking and it's basically like Zelda's diary
Uh-huh, yeah.
and the things she says like it's all stuff that we know about, but it's
Uh-huh.
all like new insights into all of
Oh.
these locales across the map. And
Oh.
because Zelda in Breath of the Wild is like a researcher and kind of a scientist, she's like presenting information from someone who's researching things. And
Oh,
so so
interesting. Oh, interesting.
yeah. So it's been this like massive lore dump. And so there's all this new lore to comb through. And so like
So
all
are
yeah.
we are you telling us that we should be expecting a boatload of Gaybora videos coming up soon?
I mean, I already have yeah. The answer is yes.
So
So,
you've learned like a lot of new stuff that so you've learned some new stuff then.
oh yeah. Yeah. Like I've already got one in the pipeline I'm working on. And then on deck I have like three others. So like yeah. And then I was on a pretty good cadence there. I put out like a couple videos that were doing pretty well. Like my last one is at like 11,000 views right now, and I got a bunch of new
Oh
subscribers.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So I think it's probably my best performing long form video because as you know, I mostly did shorts,
Yep.
but the last like three videos I've done, there's just too much to talk about, and I
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
can't condense them down to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I would love to. I like doing shorts. Shorts is my sort of wheelhouse, but
So why don't you just break them up and be like, oh, wait for part two?
it just doesn't work when
Oh,
for
oh,
shorts. It doesn't work for long form
oh,
videos. You
okay.
can do that, but when people do that for long form videos, it's like okay, part one is 20 minutes, part two is 20. You know what I mean? But I've
Got
tried to do
it.
part one and two for shorts, and it just does not work.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Because you miss too much.
No, I think the algorithm, the nature of like shorts is like you watch it and you swipe, and when you swipe, it takes you to the next creator.
Right.
Whereas if you're watching like a long form video, it's there's a lot less friction to get from that video to part two.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's been good. I've been putting out the long form stuff and I've had quite a not I don't know about success is relative, but
Sure.
uh
Sure, 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 sure.
on the path to 1,000 subscribers. That's my
That's
goal now is to
awesome.
get 1,000.
That's
Yeah. So
awesome.
I think I'm
That's
at like
awesome.
768 right now. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
for I would imagine that's really good for like Zelda fans.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not really for anyone else. Like, I do wonder what the
Oh yeah.
experience would be.
Oh yeah.
I wonder what the experience would be for someone who doesn't know anything about it. It would just be gibberish.
I can tell you, it's kind of okay. I'm not gonna say no, I don't really know anything.
Yeah.
Only peripherally know via you.
Yeah.
It is, you can tell, like, if you're not in that world, like, you're kind of, it's kind of like going to a world that is familiar and yet completely foreign at the same time.
Yeah. And I think there's different styles too. Like I think of it in terms of bands. Like so there's some bands who play to the back of the crowd and there's some who play to the front of the crowd.
Sure, 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 sure,
You
sure.
know, like the ones who are uh like what's a good example? Maybe Radiohead is like a back of the crowd band, whereas like I don't know, Taylor Swift or something is front of the crowd.
Sure, 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 sure,
But
sure, sure.
where it's like, what is your goal? Are you trying to just entertain, or are you?
No, you are definitely communicating to other hardcore Zelda fans.
Yeah, exactly. You're.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
very niche.
Yeah, it is extremely niche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Is that I think I'm pretty sure I've asked you this before, but is that your biggest, deepest fandom?
Like amongst all the stuff,
Yeah.
like Star Wars, etc.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like for me personally,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. A lot of that has to do with the ability to get your arms around it. Like we've talked about how, like, if you wanted to be the lore keeper of Star Wars,
Yeah.
I don't know how you would do it. All the
Yeah.
novels,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all
Yeah.
of the
No, it's
TV
true.
shows,
Yeah, it's true.
animated, comic books, video games. It's just
Christmas
too much.
specials, Christmas
Christmas
specials.
specials, yeah. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, I say only, there's only 20 Zelda games. I mean, there are spin-offs, but they don't really contribute anything to the lore, and you can ignore them.
Yeah.
Even like something like, and same thing with like Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. I mean, like there are so many like other
Yeah.
books,
Sources. Yeah,
yeah,
sources. Yeah.
canon sources that
Yeah.
it's just it's harder to get your arms around. And so I think that that's a big part of it. Is Zelda's easier to get your arms around.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But I mean there is a passion there as well. Like I've replayed games that, you know, like Skyward Sword. I've played
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
4 times, and like no normal human being should play that game 4 times.
Right, right, right.
That's like 50 hours
Yeah.
per playthrough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
There's two,
I totally
200 hours of my life
Yeah,
on
yeah,
one
yeah.
game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like I don't think you can do that if you're not
Right.
passionate about it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, 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 right.
So, but yeah, I mean I've always like literally since I was a little kid I've been playing Zelda games.
Zelda, yeah, 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 yeah. Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yep.
So,
Because it came out when we were
yeah.
well, probably came out before us, and it just caught.
86.
Oh, oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. So it'll be the 40th anniversary next year. But
Wow, wow. Can you play Legends on the Switch?
W-
Have they brought back the original OG Nintendo
Yeah,
cartridge?
you can play. Yeah, you can play. I think if I'm not mistaken, of the like non-spin-off Zelda games, and quite a few of the spin-offs, but you can play every single Zelda game except for Twilight Princess.
Okay.
Or and Four Swords Adventures and probably Four Sword. But
Okay.
those other two I said, they are 2D top-down, basically throwaway games.
Got it. Gotcha.
If
Gotcha.
there are any Zelda fans listening, they're gonna give me shit. But Four Sword is a piece of shit. It's the worst game ever. And then Four Swords Adventures actually is amazing, but it has like the all of the attributes of a, I don't want to say spin-off, but it has a Ganondorf who reincarnated, who's not. It's the only time besides Tears of the Kingdom when you have like a new Ganondorf, and it's just a weird game. It's a multiplayer. And so my point is the only game that matters that's not on the Switch is Twilight Princess.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, all those OG ones you can play.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
cool. That's
they're
cool.
all there.
And
Yeah,
and I take it there's no Japan only, Asia only release of a game that
there
was
are.
only for like Dreamcast
Yeah,
or Dreamcast,
yeah, there are those. There's
Nintendo Nippon.
there's this weird character named Tingle who, so he's the main character. There are like, he has like three games. I've never played any of them. Some of them were never released in the US.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, they're the only time they've ever like been released on a non Nintendo console was the I think it's called Philips CDI. So they actually licensed games for that. The Wand of Gamalion, I don't know, was
Okay.
one, and Zelda's Adventure was another one. They're piece of shit games that are not canon. And then there
More
was this,
hate from the fandom.
yeah, there, no, anyone who gives me shit about that, I will take them head on. That I will defend hardcore. And then there was a Japanese only thing called the Famicom satellite something, and I think it was called Ancient Stone Tablets, and it was Link's Awakening, um, but like a redux of it. And the hero is not Link, and you would have to get some sort of ROM to play it if you want to.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
But um, that one is the only one where I probably am like, oh yeah, that's canon. I should probably play it. Maybe someday I will, but I don't know. I get, I don't like doing ROMs because I'm afraid I'm gonna get a virus on my computer, and then
Right. 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 Yeah. 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 Yeah.
a virus on my computer.
Definitely.
I've
Definitely.
got too much stuff. We can't do this podcast if this computer goes down.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. Definitely.
yeah,
there goes the archive of all the episodes.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, but it's been an exciting week.
Awesome.
The Zeldaverse has been a buzz. The channel is doing good, um, relatively relative to how it always has been. But I mean, there's channels with 800,000 subscribers who only talk about Zelda. So,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but
But
for
that's
me,
all they do for a living, I imagine.
yeah, that's all I do for a living.
Yeah.
But for me, I've gotten like a, you know, 40% increase in subscribers in the
That's
last
awesome. That's awesome.
month and a half or so.
That's
So
awesome.
if you look at it as a percentage increase, it's huge.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
That's huge.
All right, man. Well, anything else?
Yeah, a couple things. Today Paramount announced that Star Trek Strange New Worlds will end with a shortened six episode season 5. I guess with modern streaming, 5 seasons is gonna be the top max, I guess. Call
Okay.
me old, but I do miss 7 seasons, 20 episodes. I know we'll never get that again, not in modern streaming. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it concerns me. It worries me a little bit as a Star Trek fan. The goings on at Paramount CBS. We'll see if Star Trek goes dormant again after this. I mean, I know there's Star Trek Starfleet Academy coming up in the next year or so. And obviously, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, it probably won't end until 26, 27.
Sure.
But still, 5 seasons. It's going to be a short series. And there are rumblings that Paramount might sell off the might have to sell off some of its IP to other studios. So we'll see what happens. But that came
Huh.
out today, and outside of Star Trek, there's you know, um, Brian Wilson, pop culture,
Yeah.
Beach
Mm-hmm.
Boys, 82, good life,
Yeah.
but you know, God only knows how it is. Yeah, but anyways,
Yeah. Rest in peace.
yep.
And Spaceballs too, man.
Spaceballs 2, finally! May the Schwartz be with you. Spaceballs 2, the search for more money. And like I said to you, Gabe, before we came on, if there isn't a Grogurt, come on.
Oh,
Huge missed
no,
opportunity.
yeah, totally agree.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Yeah. I wonder who will play him. Maybe Peter Dinklage.
Maybe, who knows? Who knows? Or
Hmm.
again, voiced by Bill Brooks. That would be awesome.
Yeah, but I mean like because he's Yoda, who and then
Yeah, yeah, he's yogurt. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we need Grogu.
Yeah, we need a Grogurt. Yep,
So we need a
absolutely.
mini me,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Um
But yeah, that's exciting. And that was one of the best trailers too. That was one of the
actually
best teasers. I love that.
actually I heard Peter Dinklage is in the doghouse because of his Snow White comments or actions. So
Oh,
apparently there's quite a
interesting.
backlash around him. So maybe not
Interesting.
him.
Oh,
Maybe
interesting.
not
Oh
him.
no.
So
Oh no.
anyway, I agree though.
I
They
love
should do
Peter Dinklage.
Grogurt. They should do a Grogurt.
Yeah, I love Peter
That's a great
Dinklage.
call. Yeah.
And I hope he does a tribute or an homage to John Candy.
Yeah. It's gonna
That'd be
be
cool.
weird without him.
That'd be cool.
I I wonder if they'll get someone to replace him.
Or like a Barf Jr. maybe?
Yeah.
The son of Barf.
Yeah. Son of barf.
Barf! I'm a Mog. Half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend.
All right, let's wrap it up before Jason
Yep,
starts quoting Spaceballs.
I already have.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening and watching. Thanks for following us. Give us a follow on YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And until next time, ad Astra per Aspera.
Woo!
And live long and prosper.
And may the Schwartz be with you.
See ya.
Take care.
Jason, it's been real, man.
Yep, it's been
Have
a
a
good
good
one.
weekend,
You too.
and I'll
Take care,
talk to you
buddy.
next week.
Yep, have a good one.